Kalo asmi lokakasaya krit pravedo. I am death, the destroyer of worlds. This is a different video than usual, taking a short break from debunking morons. It's a fun story regarding a computer game and the reasoning behind it. A lot of my friends and peers are programmers, but not a gamer. A lot of my friends are gamers, but not programmers. So this is something that should bridge the gap. Once you have finished watching this video, if you have enjoyed it, please give it a like and maybe subscribe, as it will really help me out. That being said, if you are playing Sid Mier Civilisation, and I mean the first version back in 1991, you might have come across this weird event. All of a sudden, the ever peace-loving Gandhi from India would go berserk. Seriously, he would go crazy and start nuking everything. That is, if nuke was invented by then. It was funny and scary at the same time. So what happened? Well, first let's talk about very basic game design. One of the easiest way to make characters behave differently, either controlled by player or by AI, is to assign them different abilities. Some game has simple strength, speed, health. In games like racing, you might have speed, acceleration, and handling. Now, what would you have as ability if you were designing Civilization? Well, if you're going to be very detailed, you might start thinking about espionage and social influencing. But on a basic level, you would have abilities like building, research, culture, and of course, aggressiveness. Now, a quick coding lesson. In the golden old days, computers were not as fast as they are today, and we programmers were a lot less lazy. We had to make our code as fast and small as possible. Thus, we use the smallest size we need. In Civilization, as the story goes, used 1 byte unsigned integer. This particular type can store any value from 0 to 255. Gandhi obviously had the lowest aggressive value of 1, where the highest aggressive value was 10. Also, in the game, when a civilization chooses democracy, this value is reduced by 2. You can see where this is going. At any point, when India would choose democracy, this value would become -1. Now, this type behaves like an odometer in a car. So from 0, next value down would actually be 255. The same way, next value up from 255 would be 0. So instantly, from being the most docile leader in the game, Gandhi becomes 25 times more aggressive than Genghis Khan. It was a sight to behold. Well, that's the myth. As a gamer and a coder, I should appreciate the story and find it really cool. But, well, I had some questions. I would have guessed, apart from having a base value, shouldn't there be additional modifier for individual civilizations? I mean, if England just gave India 10 gold, where Mongol just burned Delhi, Gandhi cannot be having the same aggressive value towards both of them. One would assume this modifier would be a negative value for England and a positive value for Mongols. But then, this bug should appear at any time during the gameplay and not related to democracy. Well, maybe this modifier had a maximum value of 1, which meant Gandhi would be down to 0 aggressiveness towards England. Now, that is a possibility, though highly unlikely. If you design the engine to populate this value to determine a behavior, there is no reason to limit it to 1. As I started writing the script, I thought, I can't possibly be the only one who doesn't believe in this story. Well, someone even crazier than me, Chris Bratt, and I use that word with utmost respect, took the time to contact the original publisher, Firaxis, and even the man himself, Sid Meier. Well, Chris made a video and I'll put a link in the description. Chris managed to track down game designer Brian Reynolds. He did not work directly on Civilization, but was an employee of the studio at the time of its development and was engaged in other projects led by Sid Meier. He later became the lead game designer for Civilization 2. Reynolds gave a much more comprehensive answer. According to the developer, the leaders in the game had different levels of aggression. But there were not 10 options, but only 3. Gandhi really had the lowest level, the first. But exactly the third of the characters had exactly the same. Thus, according to the principle from the same story, several leaders, not just Gandhi, should become aggressive psychopaths at once. Based on his recollection of the code structure, Reynolds claims that there was no unsigned variables in it. In addition, leaders simply did not have the opportunity to become even more aggressively than a group of leaders with a maximum level of aggression. Even if someone really had a 255 level, he would behave exactly like a leader in the third. The system of diplomacy in the first Civilization was quite simple and straightforward. This, in fact, led to the fact that Gandhi periodically became aggressive. Each of the leaders began to behave rather disgustingly as soon as they had nuclear weapons in their hand. It's just Gandhi, in the role of aggressor, surprised players more than other leaders. The legend Sid Meier himself replied with, "To be honest, I do not know the answer to this question. In a way, it seems to me that this is for the best. In those days, due to the fact that technology was extremely limited, the gameplay of the first Civilization was largely in the imagination of the player. Each party was a unique story in which the player played a major role. I would not want to limit their imagination, revealing too much." I absolutely love that response. That man is a true artist. One has to keep the myth alive and leave the lingering possibilities. Can I get a copy and poke around the memory to be sure once and for all? Yes, sure I can. But do I want to? As a note to this myth, in Civilization 5 released in 2010, Gandhi has a nuke rating of 12, that is 4 points more than the closest leaders Catherine, Montezuma and Shaka, and made him hands down the most nuke-happy leader in the game. In Civilization 6, released in 2016, this shout-out was incorporated as a hidden agenda called Nuke Happy, which Gandhi had a 70% chance of having. See, some myth does become real, given enough time. Well, that's all for this video. Thank you for watching and I hope you enjoyed it. My normal content focuses a lot more into debunking stupidity, so if you're into science and logic, you'd find those entertaining. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a safe day. Signing off.